Okay, so now that we have text in our document, and I've pulled the text area with the placed text off to the side, we'll come back to that later, we're going to look at formatting our text. So for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to use the text that I copied and pasted in, plus this little mess of a table down here, when I get to that portion, will allow me to do some troubleshooting and to point a few things out. So we're going to begin by default, the text that's applied, using, and I'm in my typography layout, is Minion Pro, 12 points on 14.4 point of leading. All right, so I can format this text in any number of ways I want to. So I'm just going to select. So I've got my headline here, and I'm going to delete that little headline note. And I think I'm going to show my hidden characters so that I can see where my paragraph is. So it looks like I'll have a headline and a subheadline. And then I'll have various headlines and subheadlines down through my text. So I'm probably going to have, so if I have a headline, a subheadline, I'm going to have copy, maybe some intro copy like it's called out there. Probably going to have 4 or 5 different paragraph styles, 4 or 5 different designs, text design styles within my layout. So I can format those all easily enough using the paragraph and character panels. But what we're going to kind of move toward here is creating styles for all of our text. Paragraph and character styles are simply collections of properties that you assign to blocks of text. So when I say a block of text, I mean any bit of text that falls between paragraph returns. That would be a block. So our headline is a block. Our subheadline is a block. This paragraph is a block. This subheadline is a block. See, it's got the paragraph icon at the end of the block. So we're going to format each of these. And I'm going to begin by simply selecting a bit of copy. And I'm going to go, I could use my control bar up here. I'm going to go to my character panel over here to the side. I'm going to select character. And let's select a new typeface for this. So I've got a variety of them available here. Pick one that looks nice for you that you like. I've kind of started to become a fan of Acumen for whatever reason. And I'm just going to select Acumen Light for my text. I want to make it 10 points, but I'm going to put, so this left-hand top box is my point size. Increase it, decrease it, set it to 10, and right next to it is our leading. And we're just going to increase that to like 16. I like a little bit of space between lines of text. And that's the bulk of the formatting we're going to apply to a paragraph. So I have a paragraph that I've kind of formatted, at least initially. I'll probably want to make changes to this, but I've got a paragraph. So I'm going to go ahead and format a headline as well. So I'm going to start with iPhone 13. And I'm going to go back to my Acumen. I'm just going to use the same typeface throughout my document. Maybe on this I'll use semi-condensed black. Seems that. I'll use semi-condensed bold. And I'm going to change my point size. If I click on the arrow to the right-hand side here, I can select larger numbers quickly. I'm going to set that to 48 points. Maybe too big. 36. 30. We'll start there. So I've got a headline that's 30 points. And then my subheadline here, I'll select that. And I'm not actually going to format. Yeah, I'll go ahead and format that. So I'll go ahead and set that to Acumen as well. And maybe I'll make it actually just regular semi-bold. And we'll set that to 18 points. So I've got 30-point headline, an 18-point subhead, and then so I skipped my intro copy here, and I've got body text that's 10 on 16. So now what I need to do is simply go through and apply all this formatting to the rest of my text, which can be problematic from the standpoint of if I typo or just make a general mistake, I could have text that doesn't really match up to my document. So this is where style sheets become important. So I'm going to select this text right here. This is my body copy. And I'm going to go back over here to my paragraph styles, open that up, and by default, it'll just have the basic paragraph in it. Right now I've got normal and heading in here because those were imported from my Word document. If you recall when I did that text place, I'm going to ignore those. With this text selected, I'm just going to click the plus icon, create new style, down here at the bottom of my paragraph styles. See, I get a new paragraph style, and I'm just going to open this up. And you'll see that by having this text selected, this style is automatically picking up all of the formatting I had applied to this block of text. So I'm just going to give this a name, call this my body copy. And leave that alone. So say OK. So here's my body copy style sheet. I want to do the same thing for my headline and for my subhead. So I'm going to select my headline, go back over here to my paragraph styles palette, add a new style by clicking the plus sign, or I can also do it by going to the menu on the panel and applying a new paragraph style. This will be my headline. It's picked up all of my formatting. I'll just say OK. We're going to accept that as it is. And we're going to do the same thing with our subhead. Except that I'm going to do something slightly. So I already formatted this, but what I do know is that I generally want my subheads and my headlines to carry the same type formatting, font formatting. Just helps kind of create consistency. I might have different typefaces between my body copy and my headlines, but I think for my layout, I want to have the same typeface used in my headline that I use in my subheadline that I use in my headline. And regardless of what change I make to my headline, if I change the typeface, I always want that to be reflected in my subhead without doing more work than I really need to. So what I'm going to do is, rather than selecting type this time, even though I already formatted it, I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to go back over here to I'm going to select out here actually and make sure I don't have anything selected. So I'm going to go back over to my paragraph styles, and I'm going to create a new paragraph style, open it up, and I'm going to call this my subhead. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to base it on my headline. So what that means is, by default, anytime I apply a subheadline, it's going to pick up the styling of my headline. It's going to start off with all of those type treatments. And you can see that it's automatically applied all of that. But the next part is important. I based it on my headline, but that doesn't mean that all of the properties of my headline have to be the same as my headline. So I can override within the style certain properties. And the primary property I want to override is the point size. So I'm going to go to my basic character formats. If you recall, I think I made that 18 points before. I'm going to change the point size to 18. So now it's, I'm picking up the format of my headline, but I've set the size to 18 points. I'm just going to say OK. So now I have a heading, body copy, and subheadline. And just to demonstrate what that based upon does, if I go back to my headline and open it up, and let's say that I've decided that, you know what, I do want my headlines to be a different typeface than my body copy. I could decide to make this American typewriter. Turn on my preview. Oh, I'm going to cancel that, because what I didn't do was when I created this headline, I need to make sure that I've got that headline applied. And it wasn't bold. So there's my headline. Let's go back and fix this. I want to set my basic character format. I don't want it to be regular. I want it to be bold. See it change? 30 points on 36. So we'll say OK. Actually, I want to reopen that and take a look. Okay, I want to make sure I didn't have it based on another paragraph style. So there's my headline. Here's my subheadline. And actually, I'm going to delete this subheadline. Oops. Replace it with basic paragraph. And let's get rid of this too. All right. So I'm going to recreate my subheadline now. Create a new. Open that up. Subhead. Based on my headline. Basic character formats. But I'm going to change my point size to 18 points. And say OK. So now, let's make sure that I've got my headline set to that style. Make sure that my subhead is set. To that style. I'm actually going to drag this down here. All right, headline and subheadline. So now, if I want to change the typeface, let's try this again. It just goes to show that it doesn't always work exactly the way you expect it to. If I decide to change this typeface to alternate Gothic, you'll see that my headline changes as well as my subheadline. I'm just going to cancel that. Here's the other thing you need to watch, and I did not, so it did some unexpected things. Again, I had my cursor sitting in the middle of my subheadline, and when I selected my headline, it applied that formatting to my subheadline. So be careful where your cursor is when you're working with your paragraph styles, because all you have to have is your cursor placed within a paragraph to change all of the copy in that block. All right, so I'm just going to stick that there again, reapply that, my subhead to that. Now, let's go back and take a look at my headline. I'm going to change that typeface to American Typewriter, and you see both my headline and my subheadline change because my subheadline is based upon my headline. But my one override of the point size remains intact for my subheadline. So I'll say OK. Actually, I don't want to use that typeface at all. I want to cancel. We're back to where we started. So we have a headline, a subheadline, which is based upon our headline, and then we've got our copy. So I'm going to go through here and format all of this. And you'll see why paragraph styles are so valuable. So now I've got a subheadline here. I'm just going to delete that, place my cursor in there, and select my subheadline. I have body copy, 2 paragraphs of it. I'm going to select those 2 paragraphs, apply body copy. I have a headline. We'll apply a headline to that. Body copy. And I've saved myself all of this manual work of formatting all of those bits of copy independently. So now I can go ahead, now I need to go ahead and kind of clean up my document a little bit. I need to take out my notes. We're going to leave the table alone for now. So here's the next thing. And actually, I'll just change this text to paragraph to my body copy for the time being. But if you recall, that was called out as a intro block. So here is the next point. Generally, we don't want to put paragraph breaks in with a blank hard return line. So I'm going to remove these, and we're going to do it in a different way. So I'm just going to stick my cursor right alongside of those and delete these independent paragraph breaks. So now everything's kind of clumped up, but we're going to fix that. So I'm going to click out here because I don't want to modify any of this by accident. So we're going to begin by going into our, let's look at our body copy first. So I'm going to open up my body copy style sheet. I can control the amount of space between those paragraphs by going into the indents and spacing option in my paragraph styles options. And you see there's a variety of options here. I can set my alignment. I'm going to leave my preview checkbox selected here. I could change my alignment to center. I'm just going to center all of my text up. I'm just going to leave it left. I can set a left indent, a right indent, which left indent will, if I increase that, it'll indent my entire paragraph. I can do a right indent. It'll indent the right-hand side overall. First line. Many people like a first line indent. I'll leave a first line indent here. A last line indent, we're going to ignore that. Space before and space after. So after every paragraph, for sure, I want a little bit of extra space to sort of break this up. So in space after, I'm just going to gradually increase that. And you see the gap that's created? I've replaced those return spaces with space after in my paragraph styles. So I'm going to leave that at 0.1875. That's good enough for now. We'll say OK. I can do the same thing with my headlines and subheadlines. So I kind of created a natural gap here between my subheadline and my body copy that matches my paragraph gap. So I'm going to leave that alone, I think. But I may want a little extra space after my subheadlines before my body copy starts. So I'm going to go into my subhead, go back to that indents and spacing, and I'm going to change the space after. Just going to increase that a little bit. It's not as much as my paragraph. We'll make it a little narrower. Open that up just a hair. Say OK. And I think our headlines need some space after them too. So we're going to go to headline. Make sure you don't have anything selected. Go to headline, open it up. And we'll include a space after there as well. So I've added some spacing into my layout. And actually, if I go in here now and turn off my hidden characters, it's starting to look like a relatively decently formatted bit of text. And I'm formatting it all by creating an initial style, or initially styling my primary format areas, but then I'm creating paragraph styles out of those. So let's see, I've got headline, subheadline, body copy. I still have this intro copy that I haven't dealt with. So I'm just going to make sure anything's selected. I'm going to go back down here and create a new style sheet. Call this intro copy. And I'm going to base it, I don't want it based on my headline. I want it based on my body copy. So there is an interesting next style option here. Generally speaking, anytime I have intro copy, I'm always going to want to have the copy after it be regular body style text in most cases. I can specify that here. This next style, I can set to body copy. So that if anytime I set intro copy on a block of text, the next block of text will always be have body copy automatically applied to it. I'm going to leave this off for now. All I'm going to do is base my intro copy on my body copy. I'm going to go to my character formats and make this a 14 point. And maybe I'll change it from light to light italic. I'll say OK. And now if I place my cursor in here into this paragraph and select intro copy, that applies that formatting to that. So now if I go back in, remember that's based on my body copy. If I decide that I've done an override on the font size as well as the typeface.